You know that feeling when you binge a great TV series and you just can't decide between going on Reddit to dive into all of the fan theories or binging the whole thing again immediately so you can pick up on everything you missed the first time around? Yeah. That's Yellow Jackets. I love when a series can immediately pull you in and get you involved with an element of mystery that takes you further and further down a rabbit hole as the show goes on. A series that features a large cast of interesting, layered characters clashing within a group dynamic. A series that is able to use multiple timelines and elements of different genres effectively that can keep you guessing and theorizing through clever storytelling and not just by being confusing. Yellow Jackets checks all of those boxes, and if we're talking about shows that you just can't stop watching and can't stop talking about, this is definitely one of them. The easiest way for me to describe this series is to say it's Lost meets Lord of the Flies, but with a high school girls soccer team and taking place in two different timelines, 1996 and 2021. The show was largely influenced by the Donner Party and the Andes flight disaster, both of which are true stories about people who had to resort to cannibalism in order to survive. And yes, I absolutely got lost on the internet learning as much as I could about both of these. It's fascinating but also horrifying stuff. Add to that the Lord of the Flies teen group dynamic, the fallout of living with trauma 25 years later, and some mysterious elements that may or may not have to do with the occult, and you get Yellow Jackets. No, really, it's pretty unclear whether or not there's something paranormal going on here. There are some very strange things happening, but there are also things that could be explained. There's a lovely layer of weirdness to it all, and I love it. You also get not one, but two amazing casts here, with some characters who are present in both timelines and others who are unique to their settings, at least for now. In the 1996 timeline, there's Ella Purnell, whom you might remember from last year's Army of the Dead, Sophie Nellis, Sophie Thatcher, and Jasmine Savoy Brown, who is also great in Scream this year. Check out my video about Scream if you haven't, because I'm pretty sure you haven't. Link below. And in the 2021 timeline, we have Juliette Lewis, Melanie Lynskey, Christina Ricci. The cast is stacked, and there are quite a few more incredibly talented people in both timelines. Watching them all interact and deal with their insane circumstances is an absolute treat, because it's also one of those series where the writers really take care to make these characters complex and distinct. The writing in the show in general is excellent, from character development and dialogue to an effective use of the dual timeline storytelling and a great balance of mystery and drama. Yellow Jackets writers know how to keep your attention. What's also great is that despite all of its influences and stories it reminds you of, Yellow Jackets is completely original. I can't believe I actually have to highlight this, but with so many reboots and reimaginings, familiar stories being updated and repackaged, seeing an original series that stands out on its own and is going for something unique is always a breath of fresh air. Plus, I don't know about you, but I love when a TV show spawns a lot of fan theories. I love reading them, I love participating in them, I love when they make sense, I love when they're crazy. It's just fun for me. A series that's actually worthy of discussion, something you can dissect, a show where you can look for clues as you try to figure out where it's going and what's under the surface. This type of series has been missing from my life, and I am so glad Yellow Jackets can fill that void. There is plenty of room for theories here, and if trying to connect the dots and potentially making up new dots to make things fit is an experience you enjoy, this is definitely for you. Also, there is some solid 90s nostalgia material here, especially when it comes to the music, and if a show or a movie has quality 90s references, I am there and I'm happy. Yellow Jackets pulled me in instantly, and while the first episode doesn't get into all of the characters' power dynamics and relationships, it's still very effective at hooking you and setting you up with the basics of what you need to know. In the best traditions of Game of Thrones, the show opens with an ominous wintry scene. A barefoot girl, very much not dressed for the season, season is running through the forest. It's clearly a dangerous place to be. There are markings on the trees, stick figures hanging from the branches, Blair Witch style, and the girl ends up falling into a spike pit. As the episode unfolds, it keeps cutting back to this scene, and the main takeaway here is that this girl gets eaten by a small group of survivors of a plane crash. At this point in the season, we don't know who they are because they're all wearing masks, or who the pit girl is, though we do get our first reveal at the end of the episode for one of the masked survivors. Aside from this brief broken up scene, the show is constantly switching between the two main timelines, 1996 and 2021, where we meet our main characters while being constantly reminded that in 1996, a plane with a high school girls soccer team went missing, and for 19 months they had to survive in the wilderness. What did they have to do to survive? Nobody knows. Well, we can guess, judging by that opening scene, but within the world of the show, the survivors have kept the truth to themselves. In 1996, we are introduced to some of the team. There's Jackie, the captain and resident cool popular girl, and her best friend Shauna, who seems to play a pretty passive role in their friendship, as Jackie is the one who makes most of the decisions for both of them. There's Natalie, the misfit with an attitude, who mostly hangs out with other misfits. There's the competitive and goal-oriented Ty, who will do whatever it takes to get things done, even if that means going too far. And there's the awkward Misty, who is a complete outsider nobody really wants to be friends with. While there are other characters we see in episode 1 that get more attention during the rest of the show, these few that I mentioned are the ones we're also going to be focusing on in 2021. Shauna is a stay-at-home mom married to Jackie's high school boyfriend, whom she was sleeping with behind Jackie's back before the plane crash. Natalie is getting out of rehab, paid for by Ty, who is running for state senate. And Misty, well, she's still awkward and, judging by her dialogue, clearly quite unhinged, now working at a nursing home. One thing that's clear right away, everyone has secrets and nothing is as simple as it seems. We also meet Jessica, a woman who introduces herself as a reporter interested in interviewing the survivors for a book, but even she quickly starts looking increasingly more suspicious. The episode ends exactly where you expect it to, after a montage of everyone getting ready for the trip that gives us a final look at the main and some secondary characters, including Lottie taking medication for schizophrenia. It ends with a plane crash, setting the events of the rest of the show in motion. Now, believe me when I say I couldn't possibly pick favorites even after finishing the entire season. Every character has something interesting to offer, and it really feels like we're just scratching the surface of who these people are and what happened to them. Misty is definitely an easy standout because her character is a complete wild card, and you can see her storyline going so many different ways in both timelines. She's the most obviously and unapologetically unhinged of them all. Shauna, on the other hand, is someone who has a lot going on under the surface, probably the most out of all of them. And then Ty is a whole different kind of mystery. She raises a lot of questions, especially as you get further into the season. My main point here is, if you are not watching Yellow Jackets, you really should be, because I truly do believe this has the potential to be the next big show everyone is talking about. Season 2 is coming, potentially even at the end of this year, and I cannot wait. The show is complex, but it's not difficult to follow. It blends different genres, but the tone is very clear and consistent. The characters and the mystery will keep you watching and keep you guessing, and you will have so much fun discussing it with other people, because while it answers some of the questions by the end of the season, it also brings up a few big new questions. Speaking of which, I have some spoilers that I want to get into because the season finale really shook things up. So if you haven't seen the series yet, this is your big spoiler warning. I am going to be talking about reveals and specifics because I want to get into some of the big questions and what I think is going on here. Can't wait to be completely wrong on all of this when season season 2 is here. So let's start with the pit girl and the people feasting on her in this ritualistic manner. First of all, it should be noted that everyone in the scene except for Misty, who we know is the one behind the big fur mask, was played by a stunt double, so don't try to guess them based on their body shapes and height. They're really trying to throw us off here. Second, I think after the revelations of the finale and the continued antler-related shots, we're all pretty positive the antler queen is Lottie. That leaves 6 more people in that scene, plus the pit girl, and while it's kind of impossible to tell who they are, I'm pretty sure the girl in the pink shoes is Van based on the t-shirt she's wearing. My other guess is that this girl right here is Shauna. We see her in an earlier shot with a knife here, preparing the victim for the meal, and we see her do a lot of the same thing with the animals throughout the season. My other thought on this is that there are more survivors than we see in this bonfire scene, and that after something crazy happens, they have split into 2 groups. The cannibal group that we see here and the non-cannibal group that we don't, who are also the ones being hunted. I think Nat and Travis are part of the non-cannibal group, and so is the pit girl, who is either Marie or one of the survivors we don't focus on in season 1. The other thing related to this is Lottie's cult, which we see the beginning of in the finale, and which is clearly still a thing in 2021. It's likely that they killed Travis, they're kidnapping Nat. Things are getting pretty crazy. My prediction here is that Misty is actually still a part of that cult, even though she pretends like she has no idea who killed Travis and where the postcard came from. She has no problem lying. She's incredibly resourceful, clearly thrived in the wilderness and found her purpose there, and she does some pretty messed up stuff throughout the season. You can easily see her knowing a lot more about Travis's death and Lottie's cult than she lets on, and if that's the case, she is most likely responsible for them finding Nat. Speaking of Lottie, I can't wait to see the adult version of her in season 2, but I am even more interested to see what other survivors are going to show up in 2021. At the very least, I'm expecting to see adult Van, but I am sure there are more.
And there's still no sign of the others.
No, not for months.
The person I'm very on the fence about is Tai. Is she possessed? What's the deal with her alter ego? Why is she eating earth and doing strange rituals that seem like they have a connection to Lottie's cult? I'm willing to bet Tai eventually joined Lottie's cult in the 90s, but could she still be connected to it in 2021? The other thing I find interesting is her kid's drawings. He has clearly seen her do some weird stuff, but this picture looks like Van to me, and I doubt she's been telling him stories about her cannibal days. So how does he know about this? Does Van secretly come to visit her? What is going on here? I clearly don't have answers to any of this, but I'm hoping season 2 provides a little bit more clarity as far as her behavior goes and her potential connection to the cult. The one thing that I'm pretty positive on is that there is something paranormal going on here, because there are just way too many so-called coincidences to explain. Between Lottie's visions, which are clearly visions, there are once again too many of these to repeatedly explain away. Laura Lee's aircraft spontaneously combusting, the seance getting weird, whatever the hell it is that Tai is doing, and the forest acting like it doesn't want to let the team go. I am just going to go ahead and say that this isn't your standard extended camping experience. The other big question here is, what happened to Javi? Now, I love Javi related theories because this is where things get really wild on Reddit, like people thinking Adam is Javi, which would be really dark since Shauna kills him for essentially no reason. I've also seen someone say that Javi killed Travis. The other big one is that Javi is actually the owner of the cabin and the guy we see briefly in Jackie's death dream, which requires me to believe that there is time travel involved, and I'm not quite there yet, even though Jackie's Diary features a too many to be a production error amount of movies that came out after 1996. I don't know what to make of that. Maybe Shauna added those as a way to deal with trauma. She loves diaries. Basically, since Javi is currently missing in 1996, he's the main explanation behind half of the mysterious things that are going on. I have even seen someone say Javi is the pit girl, okay? Personally, I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's following in Jackie's footsteps on freezing outside. I think they're going to find him mysteriously unharmed, and he's going to be the next one to join Lottie's cult. This does actually align with the Adam is Javi theory, especially since it's very likely Adam is related to Lottie's cult. I mean, just look at these back tattoos. These are clearly the mountains from the postcard, and this looks very similar in shape to the weird symbol. But regardless, I do not expect them to drag Javi's disappearance out for very long. I'm pretty sure the group will find him within the first couple of episodes of season 2. Back to Jackie's death dream though, the one theory that I absolutely do not subscribe to is that Jackie is somehow still alive, or that she is going to come back from the dead. We've had 2 people at this point who have had a near-death experience, Laura Lee and Van. Plus, we've seen Lottie have a premonition of dying in a car accident as a child. Having Jackie join their ranks would just be one NDE too many for one season. I do, however, think we'll see Ghost Jackie again, because there is clearly something spooky going on, and there is no way they put the hunter saying this creepy line here for no reason.
So glad you're joining us. We've been waiting for you.
That guy is simply credited as Hunter, so the logical thing is to assume that he is the owner of the cabin where the survivors are staying, but I'm also inclined to believe that place is haunted, and we will be seeing a lot more of what Van refers to as in between. I mean, the stick figure symbol had to come from somewhere, and it hardly looks like a random doodle the owner was just really into. But does that mean we're about to hit Lost territory and they're in some kind of limbo they will eventually have to go back to?
We have to go back!